Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. Today we are looking at a recent crypto market report. Just trying to get a snapshot of where things stand here in early 2025. The report is from Crypto Deep Dive, dated January 6th, so pretty fresh. Whether you're actively trading or just kind of trying to understand the headline, I think you'll find this deep dive pretty insightful. We've got Bitcoin breaking $101,000. Dogecoin making a surprising surge. And even JPMorgan analysts are talking about Bitcoin as a, quote, debasement trade, unquote.
Yeah, it definitely highlights how interconnected the crypto market is with global events and investor sentiment.
Okay, so let's start with the overall market picture. The report paints a pretty positive short-term view, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The last 24 hours have seen some pretty strong growth. Total market cap is up 3.15% to $3.58 trillion. And total trading volume has jumped by a massive 53.77% to $126.54 billion. What's striking, though, is that a huge chunk of this volume, 91.8% to be precise, comes from stablecoins.
Wow, so stablecoins are playing a much more significant role than ever. What's driving that?
Yeah. Well, it seems to be a combination of factors. They're becoming increasingly popular for facilitating transactions, especially in DeFi protocols. And plus, with all the volatility we often see in crypto, many traders use stablecoins to kind of preserve their capital. During market swings, they're kind of seen as a safe haven within the crypto ecosystem itself.
Interesting. And Bitcoin, it seems to be holding strong, still top dog.
Absolutely. Bitcoin's dominance is actually increasing, now at 56.22%, its recent 4.31% gain, pushing it past $101,000, likely attributes to this. Ethereum is also up, but more modestly, at 1.59%, reaching $3,676.
Okay. Now, the report also mentions some lesser-known tokens, like AI16Z, which saw a 26.1% jump. I have to admit that one's new to me.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about it?
AI16Z is a newer token, and its recent surge is definitely catching attention. The project is focused on using AI for decentralized finance applications. It just goes to show that. While Bitcoin and Ethereum dominate, there are always new players emerging with potentially disruptive technologies.
For sure. Definitely highlights the dynamic nature of the crypto market. Now let's dive into this Bitcoin as a debasement trade concept that JPMorgan is talking about. What's the thinking there?
Essentially, JPMorgan analysts are suggesting that people, especially in emerging markets, are turning to Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation and currency devaluation. They see it as a way to protect their savings when their local currencies are losing value.
So almost like a digital version of gold, like a safe haven asset.
Exactly. And JPMorgan believes this trend will continue, potentially driving Bitcoin's price up even further as more people and even institutions adopt this strategy.
That's fascinating. But the report also brings up crypto quants analysis, which suggests we might be entering the final stage of the current bull market. Now, I know what a bull market is, but what do they mean by final stage?
Think of it like this. A bull market is a period of sustained price increases, but it usually follows a cycle. The final stage often involves a parabolic rise in prices where things get a bit frenzied, followed by a potential correction or consolidation.
So does that mean we're about to see a crash?
Not necessarily. Crypto quants analysis is just one perspective, and even if it's accurate, it doesn't mean the gains are over. There could still be significant upside before any major correction occurs. We need to remember that past cycles don't always predict the future perfectly.
Okay, so maybe more like approaching the top of the roller coaster, that moment of anticipation before the next twist or turn.
Yeah, a very apt analogy. And speaking of twists and turns, we can't ignore the unexpected surge in Dogecoin, up a whopping 21%.
Dogecoin? Really? The meme coin is making a comeback. What's driving that?
It appears to be a combination of whale activity, where large investors are accumulating Dogecoin, and some positive sentiment from analysts. Galaxy Digital, for instance, has actually predicted that Dogecoin could reach $1 in 2025.
Wow. That's a pretty bold prediction for a coin that started as a joke. Really shows the power of sentiment and community in the crypto market.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that sometimes fundamentals and technical analysis can be overshadowed by sheer market psychology.
Okay, so we have a lot to unpack here. We've got institutional money flowing to crypto, meme coins, defying expectations, and a lot of speculation about where the market goes next. Before we get into the regulatory landscape and some other interesting details from the report, I'm going to take a quick pause and see if there's anything that stands out to you so far. What are your initial thoughts on all of this?
Well, it's fascinating to see how the crypto market is maturing and attracting more mainstream attention, the growing institutional interest, especially in Bitcoin. And the way it's being viewed as a hedge against global instability really highlights this shift. On the other hand, we can't ignore the inherent volatility and speculative nature of this market. especially with stories like the Dogecoin surge. It's a constant balancing act between risk and reward. Yeah, it's a bit like navigating uncharted waters. You have the potential for incredible discoveries and opportunities, but also the risk of encountering unforeseen challenges.
I like that analogy. And speaking of navigating uncharted waters, the report also touches on the regulatory landscape, which can be a bit of a maze in itself.
Indeed. And we're seeing kind of a mixed bag of developments on this front. On one hand, you have GSR, a major crypto trading firm, expanding its operations after getting approval from the UK's Financial Conduct Authority. This kind of suggests a growing acceptance of crypto by regulators, which could be positive for the industry's long-term growth.
So a step towards more legitimacy and mainstream acceptance.
Potentially, yeah. But at the same time, we have these upcoming MiCA regulations in Europe, which are causing some concern.
What are the concerns surrounding MiCA?
Well, while MiCA aims to protect investors and bring more transparency, some worry it could stifle innovation and create barriers for smaller players. There's also debate about the potential tax implications for retail investors.
It sounds like finding the right balance between regulation and innovation is going to be crucial for the future of the crypto market. Too much regulation could stifle growth, but too little could lead to instability and risk for investors.
Exactly. It's a delicate dance, and it'll be interesting to see how these regulatory developments play out in the coming months and years.
For sure. Now let's shift gears for a moment and talk about a couple of other interesting points from the report. First, there's the story of a trader who turned $2,000 into $3.2 million by trading a metaverse token. It's a classic rags to riches tale that seems to capture the imagination of many in the crypto world.
It's a captivating story, no doubt, but it's important to remember that it's just one anecdote,
Yeah.
and it doesn't represent the typical experience in the crypto market. The metaverse is a particularly speculative area, with high potential rewards, but also significant risks.
So it's not as simple as throwing a few $1,000s into a random metaverse token and hoping to become a millionaire overnight.
Definitely not. While there are certainly opportunities for big gains in the metaverse, it's crucial to approach these investments with caution and a solid understanding of the underlying technology and the specific projects you're investing in.
A bit of due diligence goes a long way, as with any investment.
Absolutely. And speaking of the metaverse, the report also highlighted South Korea's Jeju Island, introducing NFT-based tourist cards. It's an interesting example of how NFTs are finding their way into real-world applications.
Sounds like a creative way to enhance the tourism experience and perhaps even offer some exclusive perks or rewards to visitors.
Exactly. And it highlights how NFTs are evolving beyond just digital art and collectibles. We're seeing them being used for identity verification, supply chain management, even voting systems. The possibilities are truly vast.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how this technology is being applied in so many different ways.
And let's not forget about the continued influx of institutional money into crypto. The report mentioned $585 million in inflows into crypto ETPs since the start of 2025, with U.S. Bitcoin ETFs playing a key role.
So the big players are still betting big on crypto, particularly Bitcoin. It seems to support the idea that Bitcoin is becoming a more mainstream investment asset.
Yes, and it ties back to what we discussed earlier about Bitcoin being seen as a hedge against inflation and global instability. As more institutions embrace this view, it's likely to further drive Bitcoin's adoption and potentially its price.
Right. Now, before we move on to our final thoughts and some potential areas of the crypto market that you might find interesting to explore further, I want to touch on one last point from the report. It briefly mentioned Metaplanet, a company that's planning to increase its Bitcoin holdings to a whopping 10,000 BTC.
That's a significant investment, and it underscores the growing trend of corporations adopting Bitcoin as a strategic asset. They're essentially treating it as digital gold, a store of value that can potentially hedge against economic uncertainty.
It's a bold move, but it also reflects a growing confidence in Bitcoin's long-term value proposition.
Absolutely. And as more companies follow suit, it further legitimizes Bitcoin and contributes to its mainstream acceptance. It's a clear signal that the crypto world is becoming increasingly intertwined with the traditional financial system.
Yeah, it's amazing to see how all these different trends are converging, and shaping the future of finance. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I wanted to touch on a couple things the report mentioned that might be worth exploring further. For instance, it briefly mentioned Tether, the largest stablecoin, seeing a dip in its market cap. Should we be concerned about that?
Well, it's understandable to be cautious, But analysts are attributing the decline to the holiday season slowdown. Short-term fluctuations are pretty normal, and it doesn't necessarily point to any fundamental problems with Tether itself.
So probably not a reason to hit the panic button just
Yeah,
yet.
exactly. It's important to look at the long-term trends and underlying fundamentals, rather than reacting to every blip in the market.
Right. Speaking of long-term trends with everything we've discussed today, Bitcoin is a debasement trade, institutional investment, the metaverse, NFTs, even Dogecoin. What's your overall takeaway? What stands out to you as the most significant trend or development in the crypto space right now?
Um, it's hard to pick just one, but I think the growing institutional acceptance of crypto, especially Bitcoin, is a major turning point. It's bringing in a level of legitimacy and capital that could really propel the market to new heights. We're seeing traditional finance giants acknowledging the potential of crypto as an asset class, and that's a huge shift.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a sign that crypto is moving further into the mainstream.
Yes, and I think this also creates an interesting dynamic. On one hand, it could lead to more stability and regulation, which some argue is needed for broader adoption. But on the other hand, it also raises questions about the future of decentralization. One of the core principles of crypto.
Yeah, it's almost like a tug of war between the old guard of finance and the disruptors.
Precisely. And the outcome of this tug of war will likely shape the future of crypto in significant ways.
It's not just about the price of Bitcoin or the latest meme coin craze. It's about the underlying technology, the evolving regulatory landscape, and the constant interplay between innovation and tradition.
Exactly. And that's what makes the crypto space so fascinating. It's kind of a microcosm of the broader technological and societal shifts we're seeing in the world today.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what advice would you give to someone who's just starting to explore the world of crypto?
I think first and foremost, approach it with a healthy dose of curiosity and skepticism. Don't get swept up in the hype or make any impulsive decisions. Educate yourself about the underlying technology, understand the risks involved, and don't invest more than you can afford to lose. It's also crucial to stay informed and keep learning, as this is a constantly evolving space.
Great advice. And remember, this is just a starting point. There are so many resources available, from in-depth research reports to engaging podcasts like this one. So keep exploring, stay curious, and who knows, maybe you'll discover your own aha moment in this fascinating world of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure diving into this with you. Until next time.
And to our listeners, we hope you found this deep dive informative and insightful. We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic. Until then, stay curious and keep exploring.